Hi guys! So today's video won't be a vlog of my life here in Sapporo, but actually I'll be investigating something a little deeper than the everyday. As you guys may or may not know, I am Japanese American, and before coming to Japan I had a lot of interactions with what I thought Japan was, and coming here I realized that some things weren't the same, and what I thought was Japanese was actually not. It was something specific to Japanese Americans. So thinking that this was an interesting topic to investigate, I asked a few of my Japanese American friends if they could tell me their stories on how they've adapted to living life in Japan and if that has changed any way on how they think of themselves as Japanese Americans. So the following video would be those interviews.
Well, my name is Michael Honda.
Christy Ishii.
Shun Nakamura.
Alyssa.
What brought you to Japan in the first place?
Well, the first time that I came to Japan was on the Yabixi trip. And overall spent about 10 days in Japan, I think. And I really enjoyed that experience. So when I was leaving, I was like, I have to come back.
I decided to come to Japan because, one, I wanted to learn the language that my ancestors spoke.
I think I just wanted to know my culture more and actually experience it hands-on.
Working with the Christian org, I wanted to come and experience what it would look like to reach out to people of my own ethnicity, not just my own culture, but at least my own ethnicity. And
Did you have any problems with people thinking that you're Japanese even though you're not?
They're usually a little bit surprised at first.
They automatically expect me to be Japanese. And when I tell them that I'm not, I wasn't born there, they kind of look at me like if I'm lying. Like, really? Like, are you sure?
Once I start to speak, and then they're like, oh, there's something odd. His Japanese isn't that good.
Because at the same time, I can speak and understand it too. So the fact that I can do that, I think plays a big role. So they just automatically assume that I'm Japanese.
I tried to convince them that I'm American, totally American. But in the back of my mind, I also was kind of concerned with answering to them like I'm just American, because technically by blood I'm Japanese. I don't know, I have Japanese heritage, so it's really complicated.
it's not that people around me, I think, have put a higher expectation on me. I think people are still very gracious and very lenient, and like every time I learn something new, they're like, oh yeah, like Josu. But I think what's different is I feel that there's a social power shift. Like I have less social power because I'm like totally immersed in the culture.
So being in Japan, do you feel like you've become more Japanese or more American or more Japanese American by living here?
Oh yeah, no, both. Like I think I've seen how American, like beyond what I've imagined, but I've also seen like how I'm more Japanese than I've imagined.
There are times where I definitely feel very American.
The first year I was here, just everything that happened every day, just shouted like, oh my gosh, you're so American, or like I was just so aware of the things that I did differently.
When I was with my friends, I kind of felt more American. And then when I was by myself, I felt like I was from there.
Like, I can walk anywhere and I don't get stared at like other gaijin might get stared at.
It's easy to wear different hats, but if you're always like conflicted, I don't think I've ever been in a place where I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I'm like so lost in my ethnic identity. It's like, no, I think I can see both, and that's okay.
Although I might feel more Japanese or more American or whatever, I still clearly identify as Japanese American.
Whenever I do decide to move back to America, I don't know everything about Japan, but I do know that things are a lot different living here than the way some communities preserve the Japanese history and traditions.
Could you describe your experiences of being in the Japanese American community, especially back home?
Yeah, in the States, I was super involved in Japanese American communities.
Part of Hikari no Gakko. It was a really small group. and they're all like childhood friends kind of thing. So that's why I think my parents wanted me to be a part of it too. Also meet people that are Japanese American. So I did quite some stuff when I was younger, but not so much as I got older.
So I've been very connected with the community. I know many people there. Yeah, well, all of them are family, but they're like second family. I don't know if I would have turned out like this where I came to Japan if it wasn't for my involvement with all of that.
Outside the home, not a lot. I went to one Japanese student union or association meeting in college, and everyone just spoke so well. I'm like just way over my head. I'm like, I don't belong here. I'm definitely not Japanese. I'm not as Japanese as I thought I was. So left, and I never came back.
I found myself in a youth group within JACO. We all come from super different backgrounds, but we were able to unite ourselves because we all, I guess, identified as some form of Japanese American. We had a very sound identity. We were happy with the way things were. And that changed, I guess, for me when I left and came to Japan, where the identities that we use for ourselves in America don't exist.
Is there a time in your life where you're like you definitely want to be back home by?
I think my only hesitation to stay out here forever would be the school system. I don't know much about it. I think I'd be pretty nervous to put them into the school system. Just hearing the bad things, I think there's a lot of pressure there.
Like seeing these students go to school from at the crack of dawn until like the sun sets, I was like, wow, that's really, really intense. And even like the entrance exams to go to whether it be junior high and then high school and then college, it seems really intense. And
I think it would be better for my kids to grow up with more diversity.
Give my child the opportunity to like learn about the past and also try to like be a good person in the future. Yeah, America is definitely a place where those resources exist and they can like build a strong core before going to Japan.
This last question, do you have any advice for any Japanese Americans who want to come and live in Japan?
Well, one of the best pieces of advice that was given to me was to have no expectations.
But also cut yourself some slack. You're not Japanese. You are Japanese American. That's a very different breed. I don't think we have to be. I don't think we have to fit in. There's something unique about that, and that's really cool.
Write down maybe how you identify, and see how you change in Japan. See what things you notice about yourself. It's really an interesting experience having, roots connected to Japan.
I would just say embrace it. There are definitely some cultural differences, but that's anywhere you go. I think being able to experience that is something that's really worthwhile.
So from the interviews, I was able to learn a lot of things about Japanese Americans and how they have been living in Japan. And one of the overall things is that everyone's experience is different, but some key factors that did keep popping up were how people were connected to Japan, how their ancestors went to America, and that affected the way that they interacted with the Japanese American community while they were in the States. And that influence also came with them when they were in Japan. The people who had the most interactions with the Japanese Americans in the States, they kind of held on to that Japanese American identity when they were here, but on the other hand, people who weren't as involved, they felt more of an affinity towards one or the other, Japanese or American, while they were in Japan. Language does also seem to play a part in that the more language you know, the more you kind of blend in, and the easier your daily life kind of goes, but it doesn't seem to have much of a effect on identity as I thought it did. So there is still a lot to learn about Japanese Americans living in America because there isn't a central network for us. So if you're a Japanese American living in Japan watching this video, please comment, send me a message. I would love to hear your story. And there's a ton of footage that I wasn't able to use for this video. I would love to make a whole series of it. So please stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much to all the people who participated in my interviews, and see you next time. Bye!